I have heart disease, but it's not from the carnivore diet. Let's talk about that today. Hello everyone, Semiretiredbob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. What you're watching is you're watching me walk. I know that doesn't seem really exciting, but if you consider 35 months ago I couldn't do this. I could barely stand for a couple minutes without severe pain, and now I'm out here walking every day. It gets a little bit more interesting. Oh, I got a big smudge on that camera lens again. I can't tell if it made me better or not, but here we go. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. It means a lot to me that you spend just a few moments of your day with me. I would like to ask everyone to help me out just a little bit. Hit that thumbs up button. Drop down in the comments and say hi, Bob. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. All these things are absolutely free and help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. I am 61 years old, almost 62, and I'm doing things I couldn't do when I was 40, like out here walking every day. It's not too bad out here in Omaha, Nebraska today. It's about 48 degrees. The wind is still coming out of the north, so that's a little cold. But I'm just going to have to deal with that. But as you can see, the sun is out and shining nice. It feels good to get out here on a walk. I'm about halfway up that big hill that I start off with. But today is the 9th. That means a couple of things. It was 35 months ago that I started on my carnivore journey. And today is also the first day of our new challenge. I forget what I called it yesterday. Like I don't know, pick your own poison or something. But anyway, the challenge is to pick a distance that's just a hair bigger than what you've been doing on your daily walks, or whatever it is you're doing. You know, you could be doing your total exercise is 10 push-ups spread out through the day. Pick just a little bit bigger number and keep track of how long it takes you. And I'm guessing if we do it every day between now and my celebration live stream on the 11th, we should see the time go down. Maybe not by a lot, but every little bit of improvement helps. And I think we'll see improvement this month. I'm doing, because I normally walk, this big loop I'm on right now is about 1.5 miles. And when I add that little extra section onto it, it's about 2. So I'm going to add a couple of little extra sections on it and make it come out to 2.5. I normally push the record button as I'm getting ready to leave the house and just cut off the first chunk of video. But today I waited till I got to the end of my driveway and I started recording right away so that I can keep track of how long it takes me today, not rushing, not walking super fast, to try and get a good time. Just walk at my normal pace with that little bit of push up that first big hill, and see how much time I can cut off of it in the next month. So you're welcome to join me on that challenge. But let's go ahead and talk about heart disease. As I said at the opening, I do have heart disease. I've had a triple bypass surgery. But that was all before the carnivore diet. And you'll see lots of people out there talking about, oh, don't eat fat, it'll make you fat. Don't eat butter, it'll clog your arteries. Trim all that fat off your steak, because that saturated fat will clog your arteries. It's all false. It's not good information. We all know that, but in my personal N=1 experiment of life, I can show you that I have gotten better. You know, I've talked about several of my other ailments over the last few videos. The type 2 diabetes, the arthritis. I don't remember what else I talked about. But that's not important. Today we're talking about heart disease. And I got to where I was at by following the guidelines that they supposedly put out. You know, eating lots of fiber, fruits and vegetables. If you're going to eat meat, don't eat more than 2 or 3 ounces a couple of days a week. And if you're doing that, make sure it's chicken and fish. Never beef or pork. And certainly don't ever eat bacon. And don't put salt on your food, because that hurts, you know, adds to your heart disease. All that stuff. And I can tell you, even after my triple bypass surgery, I was slowly sliding back downhill. I wasn't going to make it much longer. I don't know what the average length of survival after the bypass surgery is, but I can tell you, if I'd kept going the way I was going, I wouldn't be out here walking and making this video for you today. Now, of course, the number one question everybody has is why? How do you know your heart disease has gotten better on the carnivore diet, Bob? Aren't you just saying that? You don't have any proof. Well, the proof is in the cardiology appointments. When I first got out of the hospital from my triple bypass surgery, my ejection fraction, which is basically a measure of how much blood your heart is putting out, 30 ejection fraction is considered in total heart failure. And the scale goes up to 70. Why it goes from 30 to 70, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. All I can tell you is that it goes from 30 to 70. And I wasn't in heart failure because my ejection fraction when I got out of the hospital was 37. And my cardiologist at the time said, okay, now we'll see each other every 6 months till one of us dies. And I'm pretty sure he thought it was going to be me. But we're both still kicking. But at the 6-month mark, I had lost some weight and was doing pretty good and had gotten off most of my other meds. And I asked him about my blood thinner. And he said, well, you're doing really good, but let's go ahead and stay on that over the winter. And then when you come back to Omaha next spring, we'll talk about it. I said, okay, no problem. So I kept taking the blood thinner. And that next spring, when I came back to Omaha, I was down another bunch of weight. I was off all my other meds. And I was doing pretty good. So he said, okay, you're doing okay. Let's, you can go ahead and cut out your blood thinner. I'll see you in 6 months. We'll see how you're doing. That fall, when I went into his office, because he does a lot of these tests right there in his office, he did his full examination, and at that time my ejection fraction was up to, it was high 40s. I don't remember if it was 47 or 48, but it was high 40s, so it definitely improved. And my CAC score had gone down a couple of points. Now, is a couple of points anything to write home about? No, except when you factor in that once you have heart disease and you have a CAC score, the general trend on that is it goes up about 10% a year. So while I only lost a couple of points, I also didn't go up that 10%, which is a really big win. And then it's been, about 2 months ago now, because we had to reschedule my appointment back in the fall again for my 1 year. And so we did it, I think it was in late January, early February, but I won't swear to that. It was back in there somewhere. But I did another cardiology appointment. And he's very happy with where things are at. And the important part of that visit, and the numbers I can tell you about, I've talked about them before. My ejection fraction was up to 57, which is still not 70, but it's certainly a lot better than the 37 I had when I first got out of the hospital from triple bypass surgery. And my CAC score, while again it didn't go down a lot, but it did go down some. And my CAC score going down some, along with not increasing that 10% per year, is a pretty big win. So I can tell you that my heart disease is slowly but surely reversing on the carnivore diet. So when people tell you eating butter or eating saturated fat, eating all that red meat and pork and bacon is bad for your heart, they're full of crap. And they know they're full of it. Well, some of them do. Some of them don't. The ones that don't know they're full of crap are the ones that are listening to those that are being paid by somebody to tell you how bad butter and ghee and tallow and lard are for you, and that you should use this healthy seed oil. I can't imagine who would pay for that kind of promotion. But yeah, today, like I said, it's the first day of the challenge, so I'm gonna keep going here. I've certainly talked long enough for the first half of this video, and I am going to adjust the walking speed to try and keep these videos somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes, because I know you guys don't have all day to hang around just to watch me walk. But as soon as I get across this little street here, I can duck into this little bit of shade offered by this tree that is not blooming. They're all starting to bud a little bit. There actually might be some leaves starting to pop out on a couple of those. But right now I can't see my phone screen at all because it's very bright out here. But as soon as I get here into this shady spot, I'm going to say I'll see you when we get back up to the house. I'll have a few more thoughts for you then. But for now, let's go ahead and cue the music. Okay, cut the music. That was quite a bit harder than I thought it would be. I'm walking down the hill here to the house. I do have a lot of people question me on time to time. They say, well, Bob, I've heard you say back in this interview a year ago or that interview a year ago that you walk an average of 5 miles a day. And that was absolutely true. But it's very easy to get to 5 miles a day if you're living in a church parking lot and you get out of your little camper and walk 2 or 3 laps around the parking lot and then sit down and take a break. Walk 2 or 3 laps around the parking lot and sit down and take a break. Over the course of the day, it's very easy. What I'm doing here, that was 2.5 miles. Well, almost. When we get back to the house here, it will be 2.5 miles, all in one shot, no breaks. Even the first time I went around that big block, I had to stop and rest 5 or 6 times. If you go back and watch my earlier videos, I had to rest a lot, but I got around there eventually. Now I'm doing it all in one shot. So I think that helps. We're almost back over to the house now. The reason I went that way, because I know the big lap that I normally walk is right at 1.5 miles. And I know that from my house to where the sidewalk ends up by the nursing home is 1/2 mile. So up and back, I should be right at 2.5 miles. And I'm coming up on the spot in front of my truck, where I'm going to say timestamp. That's where I'm going to take the time for. And somewhere in here, up here in the screen, I'll put the exact distance and the exact time that took me. And I did that so that I had an accurate 2.5 miles. I have some other routes plotted through the neighborhood, so you're not going to have to watch basically the same video every day. I am going to mix it up, but then at the end, I'll do the exact same loop that I just did, so that we get a very accurate comparison of time. I like that route. That's a tough route because besides all the hills that I get on my big loop, that adds 3 steep uphills and 3 steep downhills by the time you go all the way out and back again. But heart disease, I have it, but it's slowly getting better because I'm eating the carnivore diet. I am convinced that if I hadn't found carnivore, I wouldn't be here to be having this conversation with you. So don't let anybody tell you, because there's a lot of people out there that some are getting paid, some are just ignorant of the truth, but they're gonna, you'll see every day saturated fat's bad for you, cholesterol's bad for you, butter's bad for you, switch to margarine, get this seed oil, switch to healthy fats. It's all BS and we know it. But I'm hoping that my successes on not just getting health improvements across the board over 35 months, but the actual quantifiable increase in heart health will also give you some inspiration to keep pushing forward. Hopefully some of what I said today made sense. Hopefully you enjoy this little challenge we have embarked upon. I've decided we're just going to call it Walking Challenge and not try to come up with any kind of fancy name. That's what I've got for you today. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you in the next one.